let's talk about how Ken got to be Ken.
So with that said, you just told my age. So I come from a small, very, very small town, not much around there. And I grew up really tiny. And so my family is a big football people. So I had to do what I had to do to be good to play football, whether it be running, whether it be weights. And so I started doing both of those and I started making little results. Lo and behold, I got some decent results off of that, just natural, totally with just plastic weights, and I got good results, right? I guess good genetics. Well, anyway, so I went a little further. I took it a little further. I started studying and stuff on why I was gaining weight and what was I eating and what was I doing to make my muscles respond to weight training, even with those little plastic weights. And then so through the course of studying a couple of years, I became a personal trainer. And there was a local gym that opened up, and I was the only personal trainer down there. So I became a personal trainer and got certified, and that was at 17.
That's amazing.
And now I am 57, and I've been doing it ever since. The cool part about me is that I've been doing it so long, and just like a doctor or anybody else in their field, you come across these things that the magazines and the tapes and the books and the school doesn't show you.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the cool part. And so with that said, I have this plethora, if you would, of knowledge from being on the front line. So whenever somebody asks me, what do you call yourself? I'm a frontline trainer.
That's cool.
I have some certifications, but I've been there, done that, and I've trialed and errored just about everything that you can imagine. I've trained tons of people, from actors, Olympic athletes.
You used to do body competitions.
I used to do bodybuilding competitions.
Yeah,
I did those people. I did the wellness. I did the fitness. I did the Special Olympics.
Wow.
So in my life, I've done pre-op and post-op. So in my life, I've gotten to see a whole bunch of people and dig into what their needs were,
yep,
and study myself and see what will work for that particular person. And that's what brings us here today.
Yep.
Not just the peptides, but digging in and finding what works for that person. We know this peptides does X, but what can we do to better that for that person?
Yeah.
From a nutrition standpoint, from a physical fitness standpoint, from a peptide standpoint, from a generalized nutritional standpoint.
Yeah.
And so that's what brings us here today. And I'm so excited, as you can tell, to talk about this, because no one has ever sat me down and said, tell me a little bit about more depth about what you're doing.
Give me your brain.
Till I met you. Right. So anyway.
I know. Well, when I said, oh my gosh, I would love to have Ken on the podcast so we can talk about peptides. And that was my initial thought.
Right.
Of course, we're going to talk about peptides because that's kind of where the passion is right now. So many people are doing it, but that Smiles by Wellness, I wanted to do it for my patients, but I wanted to do it different. I didn't want to just be like Big Pharma. I didn't want to just throw stuff at people and then,
right,
it not work or not get the right results or the wrong results, God forbid. So... And then I get to you and I'm like, hey, let's do this podcast on peptides. And then you and I start talking. And it goes on a whole nother level.
Yes, totally
it's
revamped it for you.
And that was where you went to where makes me happy, where it's not just the end result of the peptide, like giving you a medicine. It was,
right,
but where does it come from? But where does it start? But it's back to the basics. It's the basics of your body. God made you like this. This is how you were born. There's some things we were born with. Some things are genetically given. Some is environmental.
Right.
We have all these things that if we don't think about all of that and how our life has revolved and evolved into the things that our body's doing now to compensate for what we do on a daily basis, then it's like you're just throwing stuff to the wind sometimes.
That's right.
And it's expensive stuff most of the time.
And sometimes certain things work for people and sometimes certain things don't work for people. And so it's up to us to find what works for that particular person, but not someone else. And so that's what I love about the sport, I guess, if you would, the most, is that finding that one little thing, even though tirzepatide works and this works and TB works and all these other peptides, is still, like you said, you and I talked in the gym, it's just a tool. Yep. You have to put all the tools in the toolbox to be successful.
Just one tool in the toolbox,
And basically it comes down to what I told you earlier. You and I were speaking, to me, it comes down to inflammation is really, really huge.
That's a huge.
As we age, as we go through life, stress, kids, job, whatever it may be, or relationships, the inflammation in our bodies go up. And the peptides really help with inflammation, but we still need it. Once we bring that inflammation down per what peptide we add to it, we still got to have that proper nutrition to not bring that inflammation back up.
Yeah.
To me, and that's the really cool part about the peptides and the nutrition and the training together. And it's the same thing with training. You have to have the right peptide, the right nutrition, and the right training. Yep. If you don't, going to have that inflammation, we're going to be back to square one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yes. People ask all the time, like, do we have to stay on this forever? I'm like, well, if you change your habits, you don't.
Correct.
This is your, if you start back, we were talking basic stuff, but if you go all the way back to the beginning or the end, and yes, you're on this peptide, am I going to stay on it forever? Well, you would if you don't change your eating habits, you don't change your mindset, you don't change your nutrition, your sleep,
yes,
all the basics. So I'm excited to tell people a little bit, it's so much, but a little bit about what are those basics that you were able to look at and say in an assessment, these are the markers that and tickers that I feel like if you did this, this, and this, you could change it. Now, it's not easy stuff.
Right.
Because, if you like having your beer and your pizza and those kind of things,
right.
and we tell you can't have it, it's a personal preference, but at least you would know at that point. And there's going to be people who are like you and me who are just wacky, crazy, who are like, tell me what it is and I want to do it. And then there's people who are like, it's not that important to me, I don't care, and that's fine, right? And then there's all the people in the middle who might want to do it. But I do hear that people tell me, oh, I was on GLP-1 and it didn't work for me. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's not that the drug didn't work for you. It's all the other stuff.
And that's what made me kind of turn our conversation around, because I've gotten that several times. I've taken the TB and the BP 157 and it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
What was your nutrition like? What was your training like? What was your sleep like?
So
and
much.
We can go on and on and on. I mean, there's so many factors that play into that.
Right.
So if you don't have the total package or a minuscule part of each package, then it's going to work less and less and less. And that's where we are, you know what I mean? And now that people are getting so much into peptides, I wanted to bring it back a little bit per se, say, hold up, there's other factors that factor in with just a peptide.
Right.
So,
and that's not something you can get from just a book.
Correct.
That's from years of training and looking at people and hearing all the different stories, because, we're all made different, completely different. Right. And even with as many people that you've trained, there still may be somebody that comes to you and you're like, let me do my research. At least you know where to go find the research.
Definitely 100%. I mean,
you'll know how to figure out what it is. Whereas if I come to you, if I just think, okay, well, this is what's not happening to me. I mean, I guess I could do a lot of research, but who wants to do that much research? It's kind of like the doctors now they don't know about the peptides, so they don't prescribe the peptides, which I get it. It was a lot to study all these peptides. And I've probably hit on a minuscule amount of peptides. And it was a lot, and it still is a lot of keeping up with and learning. So you learned and you did, and you're in practice. It's kind of, you said about doctors earlier. Like, we practice. We have to literally, unfortunately, I have to say it, like, we don't know everything when we first start.
Exactly.
Sorry, patients that saw me when you first started.
And I tell my clients that, but that's what I want people to understand, that that's the fun part for me.
For you, you've had all this.
I like people coming to me and I can't figure it out. Let me go and figure it out. That's the part I love, and that's what keeps me to this day driving and getting excited and getting goosebumps about the whole package together.
Love that.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And your story's so great. I mean, from 17, good Lord. And then you've seen so many people. So we know you can help a lot of people. We just got to get we have people to understand that you're here and you're available, well, somewhat available. You're pretty busy.
Yeah.
So when I talk to you, I'm kind of like, how can we make this work for people who really want, who really want to get healthy? And it's not going to be everybody, and that's fine. But for people who really need it, or are sick and really need to, and they want to find another way, more of a natural way, but then also, like, where are they going wrong? That would be great. So yes, we have all these ailments and all these cancers and all the things, dementia, Alzheimer's, all these things that are happening in our life. They weren't there all the time. Like, a few years ago, they weren't there. So what's causing it?
That's right.
Inflammation, right?
Inflammation. 100%.
So we know that, but then, and people might know that too. They might say, somebody said I'm inflamed, but they're like, okay, what do I do with that information?
What do I do for that? Yeah.
How do I do this? Do I just, drink more water? Do I just do whatever? So for you you've done all this studying and you know all the things, just to get your brain, like, for me, it's so fun just to pick your brain sometimes and just, like we talked about, we can just go on and on and on about
this can go on forever. Like,
this can go on forever.
So
we
much
could do
information.
like 100 podcasts about this stuff.
But that's what's so cool about it.
I know, but I do want people to know that it's available, and we'll talk about that at the end. Like, that we're trying to get you available, and that as a small spa wellness, I'm trying to kind of figure out the best way to have you be able to assess people, and then give them possibly a nutrition plan, give them some training, and then give peptides if that's what's going to help them, which is not a natural synthetic, but not like a pill, not like a post-op reactive pill. Like, let's be proactive, and before we get dementia and before we get cancer and all the things, let's see if we can find a way to make you healthy, anti-inflamed, sleeping better, eating better, training better. Right. Even if training is just walking. Not everybody wants to lift a bunch of weights and
exactly.
look
and
all
that's
buff.
not what I'm here to talk about. Like, to tell people, you don't I'm not going
have
to
to be a
tell you to,
bodybuilder.
right. I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you to lift 500 pounds or walk on this treadmill for 45 minutes. That's old.
Run marathon.
Yeah, that's old stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that anymore.
It really
You know what I
doesn't.
mean?
Isn't that
People thought it
crazy?
worked like that, and it did for that time. But there's other entities that we can put in place
Yeah.
to not have that person. For instance, I know someone's going to drink alcohol. I know someone's going to do this. I know someone's going to do. So it's up to me as a trainer or the person who I say I am to be able to come up with some plan for them, knowing that they're going to have
works
those
for them.
life entities, right?
Yeah, it works in your
So
life.
I factor that into the training and the peptide and the nutrition and all that. I'm not that crazy where I take things away from people, because they'll never do it if you take
And it
a
won't work.
lot away from people,
Right.
and it won't work. And
Yeah.
then we're back to square one. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to fight with people.
Correct.
Like, look,
Not
if
at
you
all.
want it,
Yes.
it's here for you, and this is what you could do with it. This is if you want to be really
This is-
crazy good, and this is if you just want to feel better and look better
Exactly.
and keep yourself healthy
This
for
is
a
too
a
fun
long
for
time.
me, and the man upstairs, if I can say that, did this to me. I figured it out 20 years ago, and he gave me all this information, and now I want to put it out
I
there.
love
So,
that.
I mean, it's people that you just have to be a part of it to understand it and educate people, and that's what gets people excited. Is that it's not just another training routine. He's gonna bust my butt in the gym. I'm gonna sweat. I'm gonna do this. I like to educate people. I'm doing this for you because of this.
Yeah.
And when the people have education, I say the clients have more education on it, they tend to be more excited about it, and it works that
And
much
they
better.
understand.
Yes, they
you
understand.
and I said this, and not to throw my dad under the bus, but it was always like, well, why? I would ask, tell you to do something, and
Yeah.
I'm sure most parents are like that. I've caught myself once or twice when I was younger, like as a young parent.
Yeah.
The kids are always, why? They want to know. And so, but you don't want to have all the, like, oh, I got to explain this. You're not going to understand it just because I said so.
Exactly.
Just because I said so. And if you tell an adult, I want you to do this training plan, I want you to eat this much protein, and they say, why? And you say, because I said so.
Yeah.
They're like,
100%.
You got to give them their why. As in anything in life, we need to have our why. We need to have our goal. We need to have our reason for doing what we're doing. And it has to mean something to you.
That's right.
And you got to want it. Because we can line everybody up, across Baton Rouge and say, you need to have all this stuff. And some people might want it and some people might not, and that's fine. But you got to want it for yourself to do things to make yourself healthy.
You have to bring people to, not that anybody's more intelligent than anybody, but you have to I noticed this, you have to bring people back to the ABCs, I call it, of it. I can't just tell somebody to take this peptide that just came about and eat this food because it does this, and the kinesiology behind it, and then the nutritional part behind it, and the rehabilitation part behind it. I have to start with ABCs. So
Okay.
I have to start real simple with people. Not that I'm smarter than them, but they get it that much more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't want all this information on it. I leave that to the doctors. Let them tell you that, but then let Ken break it down for you in more simplistic terms.
Yeah, I like that.
And so it works a little bit better for me. I think it's why my longevity in this why people come to me is because I break it down in simpler terms. And they're like, because a lot of times doctors say, doctor told me do this, and I'll break it down into these terms on what I do. And they're like, yeah, that makes more sense.
Makes more sense. It's got to make sense.
Not really more sense. I just put it in more simpler terms.
I
You
just
know what I mean?
turned it around. The words
yeah.
around.
And so anyway, people get it like that. And I'm
love
very blessed to have tons of clients that put all their faith and hope and trust in me. And I think that's what my success
Well, I think you've
comes
earned
from.
it, though. You've
Well,
earned it. I know you're very humble
I have
about that.
great people, and I have great people that surround me, and people like you that have knowledge, and I utilize that knowledge. I don't just put it out because you're a doctor and you give this peptide or you do this dentist work. I study it, and I bring it in together with us. And so it's just another stepping stone on what we
I
can do.
love it.